Good day, students. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I hope you are all safe and secure. Today, we are going to study about the two most common methods of how interests are computed. We are going to study today simple interest and compound interest. Our learning outcomes at the end of this tutorial video, students will be able to differentiate what is simple interest and compound interest. What are the definitions of each of the interest? And most especially, students will be able to synthesize and comprehend how to compute simple interest and compound interest. Let's define first what is interest. Interest is basically the price paid for the benefit of borrowing money for a certain period of time. Typically, the amount of interest is expressed as a certain fraction or percentage of the principal amount borrowed. So, interest is the cost of borrowing money. For example, you borrowed 1,000 and the uh, the lender is going to uh, request for a interest rate of 10%, no? And 10% is the percentage of the interest. So there are two common methods of calculating or computing interest, which is simple and compounded. For our source of reference, we have Investopedia, Personal Finance, Bank, downloaded from this URL address dated October 25th, 2020. So let's start with the simple interest. What's the difference or the differences? Simple interest, okay? Simple interest is paid or received over a certain period of time. When we say over a certain period of time, so there is an agreement on how long you are going to pay your loan or your uh, maybe savings or savings account or maybe a bank loan. There is an agreement between the borrower and lender that you have to pay maybe 2 years, maybe 3 years, or maybe 5 years, or maybe a year. Okay, so simple interest is calculated on the principal amount of loan or deposit. For example, your loan is, let's say, 1,000. So that is the principal amount. So the interest will be based on the principal amount. On the other hand, the compound interest accrues, meaning to say it increases, it accumulates, and is added to the accumulated interest of previous periods. So borrowers must pay interest on interest as well as principal. That is compound interest. And you will really understand this once we go to the actual example, right? Let us proceed. So, what is the formula for simple interest? Simple interest is computed by the principal amount times the interest rate and the term of loan in years, no? Okay. While compound interest is computed by the principal amount times 1 plus the annual interest rate raised to the number of years interest is applied minus the principal. So that is the compound interest formula. So again, simple interest and compound interest are the two common methods of computing interest. But we are my scope and delimitation on this tutorial video, we are not going to discuss continuous interest, but we are going to deliberate and discuss simple interest and compounding interest. Alright, let's go to example number 1 about simple interest. Okay. Alright, so this is the formula for simple interest. So let us go to a faculty who made an emergency loan, simple interest amounting to 40,000 with an annual interest rate of 6% payable over 3 years. The question number 1, how much total interest for 3 years? And question number letter B, how much per year of interest? Alright, so the given is 4,000, which is the principal. Okay, 6% is the rate. Okay, and then the term of loan is 3 years. Alright, okay, so using this formula, you have to directly substitute it. 4,000 or 6% divided by 100 gives you 0.06 times the term of loan in years, which is 3. So you can basically, for 3 years, the simple interest or the total interest for 3 years the faculty will pay for the emergency loan of 40,000 is 7,200, meaning to say the principal amount is 40,000 and the interest, simple interest computation is 7,200. Okay. Now, if you want to compute how much per year, okay, the per year the interest will how much the interest will be for a certain year, it will be 2,400 per year because you multiply this by 1. Okay, so every year it will have an interest of 2,400 pesos. Okay, that is one example of a simple interest. All right. Let's take, for example, another interest, okay, using this formula. Now, suppose a faculty professor opened a 50,000 one-year certificate of deposit. What do you mean by CD? CD is a product offered by banks and credit unions that provide an interest rate premium in exchange for the customer agreeing to leave, okay, a lump sum deposit untouched for a predetermined period of time. Meaning to say, if for 3 years you will not make any withdrawal of that lump sum amount that you deposited to the bank. Okay, so a faculty professor offered 50K 1 year's certificate of deposit to a credit union that pays simple interest of 3% per annum, meaning say 3% per year. How much interest was earned by the faculty for 1 year? Okay, so right, so you have 50,000 interest rate. The term of the loan is 1 year. So directly applying the simple interest formula, you have the interest for that certificate of deposit is 1,500. So meaning to say you earn 1,500 after 1 year for the 50,000 1-year certificate of deposit that you do to the credit union. Let's take another example of simple interest. Alright, so this is a continuation of example number 2 about certificate deposit of that faculty professor. Now, for example, suppose your certificate of deposit is cashable at any time, meaning to say there is an agreement that your CD can be withdrawn when you like, no, for a period of, let's say, 1 year again. If you cash the certificate of deposit after 4 months, how much would you earn in interest? Right. So meaning to say the term is 1 year, but there is an agreement that you can withdraw anytime, no? And you chose 4 months. Okay. So again, 50,000, the 3% rate, and N is equal to 1, but prorated basis because you want an option to withdraw it after 4 months. So you have to use again this formula, and by substitution method, 50,000 times 0.03 because you divide this by 100. Okay, now 1 year is 12 months, so you divide 4 by 12, no? So it gives you 0.33 because it is prorated. You want it to withdraw it, let's say, after 5 months. So this one will be 5 over 12. If 6 months, 6 over 12. That is prorated. So you just bring down this one, 50,000 times 0.03 times 0.33. It gives you earned 499 pesos and 50 centavos for that example, for that simple interest. Okay, now go to an example of compounding interest. Again, compounding interest, if the interest is charged and not paid, it effectively increases the amount of the principal that is owed. So for the next time, next time interval, interest will be charged on the interest from the last time interval. Now, we will go to that example. So again, with compound interest, borrowers must pay interest on the interest as well as the principal. So that is the key. All right, let us have here an example. Okay, a faculty made a bank loan of 500,000 at an interest rate of 5% per year, compounded annually. Okay, with the full loan amount and interest payable after 3 years. Okay, what would be the total interest paid by the faculty for 3 years? All right, so let's write down the given. So you have the principal, which is 500,000. There you go. And then what is the interest rate is 5% per year compounded annually. So 5% per year compounded annually. And the duration of the loan amount is 3 years. So there you are. Okay. So we will follow this compounding interest formula. Okay. Now, if we will go directly to the substitution of the formula, that is 500,000 times 1 constant plus 0.05. Why 0.05? Because 5% divided by 100 gives you 0.05. Alright, okay. So, I am not yet discussing, okay, this on the top portion. I am just using the compound interest formula directly substituting that in that values. Okay, so 500,000, which is the principal, times the quantity 1 plus 0.05 raised to the third power because the n is 3 years. If the n is 2 years, that will be 2 raised to the 2. If the n is 5 years, that is raised to the 5. Okay, minus the principal. Minus the principal. This one. So, 500,000 times 1.05. Why 1.05? Because you add first 1 plus 0.05. Yan. Before you raise it to the third power. So, 1 plus 0.05 give you 1.05 raised to the third year minus 500,000. So, let's proceed to the next processing. 500,000 times 1.157625. Okay, now, let us, if you have a scientific calculator, okay, what you will do is you are going to enter you are going to enter, okay, 1.05, okay, and then look for that function that is xy, and then you press that and then enter 3 and then equals. It will give you a value of this one, 1.157625. Okay, then bring down 500,000 as the principal because of this formula. Okay, let me just remove some notes. Okay, all right. Okay, so it's clean now. Okay, so this one is now 500,000. Process first this one times this value, it gives you 578,812.5 minus the principal gives you 78,812.50 centavos. So that is the answer of the total interest paid by the faculty for a duration of 3 years. However, you want to know, okay, the interest that you are going to pay for the first, after the second, and after the third, so that you can feel the compounding interest. All right, let me show you. Okay, after the first year, okay, after the first year, so this n is equal to 1. Okay, so 500,000 times 0.05 again raised to the 1 year minus 500,000. So 500,000, 1.05 raised to the 1 year, okay, gives you 525,000 minus the principal. So this is the interest that you will pay the bank after a year. Okay, so you loan 500,000 plus the interest after 1 year is 25,000. Now here is the compounding. Okay, the compounding is you are going to combine the principal and the interest after 1 year. That's why the principal is now 525,000. Okay, now the formula here is the same, raised to the not 2 but 1, because we are computing after second year. So that's why it is raised to the 1 year. Minus, again, the new principal now is this plus this, that gives you 521. That is the compounding interest. Principal plus the interest after 1 year. Okay, so again, we process this one, 525,000 times 1.05 raised to the 1. So it's 1.05 times 525. It gives you 551,250 minus the principal 525. Okay, gives you 26,250. Okay, so that is the interest paid after the second year. Now, if you want to compute the interest for the third year, this one plus this one, the principal here after second year plus the interest after second year is the new principal amount that you are going to use for the third year computation. So again, this one is the same. That's the principal. How did you got this one? The principal after the second year plus the interest earned. So that will be your principal value for the third year. Now, if there is fourth year, example only, okay, this one plus this one is the principal for the fourth year. So forth and so on, compounding interest. Okay? So again, this one is raised to the 1 power because you want to compute on a yearly basis. Okay? So, if you add the interest earned after 3 years plus the interest earned after the second year plus the interest earned, let us try to, okay, alright. The interest earned after 1 year, this one, gives you this one. The second year is this one. And the third year is this one. So it gives you the total interest 78,812.50. So meaning to say this is the same as this one. However, we use a direct substitution of this formula directly to this one. But in order for you to get a specific detail of your interest earned after a year, you use this method of computation. Okay? Well, you can divide this immediately by 3. It will give you a certain value, but it will not be, it is quite subjective. Rather than using this formula, it will be very objective. Okay? So, thank you for listening, and I want you to be safe and secured, and please subscribe and share and like the YouTube channel. See you again in my next tutorial video.